in Nebraska from the beautiful Lincoln International Airport, large Class Delta, I believe, airport with part-time control tower out here on the International Guard Base. Today we're out here at the SCCA Tire Rack Pro National Solo event weekend. This is a double weekend with both the National Solo, which is the roaming solo for high-level amateurs and low-level semi-pros, and the Pro Solo, which is bracket-style races with drag racing starts. The Pro Solo's first day ran today, and its second day is tomorrow on Saturday, when tech inspection and check-in will be for National Solo, which I am running in on Sunday and Monday. We're going to go over a little bit of a course preview in the fading light here before it's done for the end of the day, and I'll probably leave this up on my channel, so let's get into it. We can go ahead and see if this will let me swap my camera when I'm live. Yep, there we are. So here's our starting box and start tree. See our little staging areas. There's our tech inspection behind us, and the grid is marked with green cones where everybody would be coming from. So in a Pro Solo, they start the cars right next to each other, and I have explained to some of my friends who know about autocrossing what a PAX or an index is before. Basically, it's like a handicap for golf, where the cars get kind of conglomerated together based on performance. So they would start staggered from each other by the amount of time determined by their index from either one of these lanes. And there is their start tree over there, as you can see. Now, this course is mirrored so that the courses should be identical distance and time on both ends of the course. And when you do your multiple runs, obviously you swap sides, just kind of like how you swap lanes in drag racing. So you'd come up here and you'd start. I'm just going to walk outside the box here so I avoid the timing lights in case they're running tonight. And I'm allowed to walk the track because there's not really anything going on the rest of today. They're not going to be reusing these courses tomorrow. You'd do your flying start. They'd check your time and make sure that you didn't jump. And then you would go ahead and come here. Here, as we can see, you're coming down to our first cone feature. And I'm just going to kind of do this like I would normally do a track walk for myself, or I would do a track walk if I was leading the novice walk at a local regional event. So we're coming down in here. As you can see, you got a little bit of a run to your first corner, which is a pretty simple left-hand box into what looks like a long right-hand corner following it. Your pointer cone right there on your inside apex cone is pointing to driver's right, which means you go around this feature to driver's right. As you can see from these big, long, nice skid marks, some people apparently missed this pretty bad this morning when the Pro Solo was still going on. So I'm walking roughly where you'd probably want your car placement. You got your boxing cones on the outsides keeping you contained in because they want you tight to this to keep the speed down. Come over to driver's left, around this cone, try to hit with the back side of the car. As you can see, from your next feature over here, you do kind of have a little bit more space to hoist yourself with if you're not careful. And these pointer cones are taking you along this wall feature to your driver's left. And the turn into this looks like it's actually fairly late because it narrows out a little bit. So you'd want to come in and then try to kind of come in tight at the end to get yourself parallel to this next feature, which, as you can see, goes to the left. And it's got a little apex cone on it to the left after this walled off feature that you probably don't want to hit, because cones are a 2-second penalty. But you'll notice this is really wide here. This might be kind of hard to see with the scale of my body and my hand in front of my camera here. But here are my feet. Here is how far I am off that seam. And here's that distance to the next seam. And if you look at this, again, you have half a seam either side or one whole slab of concrete to play with. And each one of these slabs looks like they're a good, 50 feet wide, 25 to 50 feet wide. So you got plenty of space to play in here. So you'd want to get as close as possible to that cone. Here's what it looks like coming from the other direction. Again, this is basically just a nice medium speed slalom. You'd probably be in second gear in most cars for this. As we come down in here, you're noticing that your pointer cone is taking you to the driver's left-hand side of the apex of this gate. So you'd come down in here, and you've got 2 gates here. The reason why they would use 2 gates here on a really, really long corner is because if you'll notice, if I kind of step out wide here for a second, you got gate 1, gate 2. You've got your exit wall right here, keeping you from going too far out wide. But that's the corner that you're actually aiming for, is that next set of features up here. So if I bring this back out and zoom it back out for a second for you, what you can see is that basically the reason why they have these two gates this close together is to kind of guide you towards the line they want you to get towards that feature. Because if they didn't have this second gate that you must go through, you'll notice if I just come through this first one and beeline it to that next one, it would be very, very easy for me to actually go super, super far out wide and potentially have a spin into that grass over there off that course, because I'd be pinching off the angle really hard and keeping the car wound in really tight. So what they're doing by having these two gates, that one there and that one back behind us back to back like that, is basically deliberately, I wouldn't say slowing down this corner, but making it one large continuous kind of arcing in corner, rather than having it be kind of like a beeline from that first gate straight in there, or from that feature back there direct in there, making a straight line if possible. You'd have some people with some weird lines. I mean, it would potentially maybe be cool to see them leave it out that wide so people could play with it and have some really experimental stuff going on. But what they might accidentally do is, again, get themselves in the grass or over by the fence down there, especially if they're in a way faster car. So as you can see, another reason why they might have that slowing up as we come in here is look at how tight this wall is on the exit right here. This nice little cone wall with those laid down pointers telling you to go driver's right. Yeah, you could hit that real easy if you hustled in there real fast because you didn't have those two slowdown gates in there. So we'd want to get close to this curb. As you can see, the last run of the day, hit it, they didn't reset it. You'd want to get as close to this curb as humanly possible to take a nice tight line in there, but you'd also want to keep the speed up. So if you'll notice from where people's tire tracks are, there's actually quite a lot of dark markers, and this is, don't forget the Pro Solo guys, a lot of them in some very fast cars, right, are all the way out here down to this exit cone. When this box is nice and tight, and that cone gives you a really preferable angle to straight line it towards that next gate feature. But look at what's going on. After that next gate feature, we have a wide corner where the pointer cone is telling you to go to driver's left. So you don't want to be tight in here. If you were tight to this cone, you would not be out wide enough to get to the left where those tire marks for the faster drivers taking the ideal line are, to get all the way out wide left to then take that next right-hand corner on that next feature. So that's what we would call a sucker cone out there. That cone is trying to bait you into being too tight on your driver's right-hand side, because if you were, and let's say hypothetically I was all the way over here, look at where I'm pointing. I'm nowhere near where the course is going. I want to be all the way out here. Maybe not so wide that I might hit that exit cone, but nice and healthy. Because if I'm all the way out on the driver's left-hand side, and I put my car that's one car width wide right here next to this cone, look at my turn in for my next feature, gang. That turns this next corner, which is a right-hand corner going driver's left around this cone. This is basically looking like pretty much a straight line in here now, isn't it? And that winds that up a lot. The reason why that's important is because, again, your very last feature of the set over here is a much tighter corner than pretty much all of the previous corners. You can tell that as a visual cue because of your guide marking box on the outside of 3 cones, and then your exit wall of 3 cones pointing you to the left on that end. They have those nice obvious features here because they're telling you, hey, don't be all the way out here going really, really fast through here. You might have to be checking up and tightening up. Another way to tell that, let's say hypothetically, they set up this course deliberately hard to read and they didn't have your outside corner marking cones or your left pointing cones right there telling you that this is going to be a left-hand corner. If you look at this apex cone and you're looking at it by turning your head left as you're entering here and you look up, that's your next apex cone, which looks like a pretty tight line for another left-hand corner for me. So again, straight lining it in here, turning this into a braking zone, trailing off your brake pressure, trying to get close to this cone. But if you look at the lines between these are a little bit pinchy. So, you know, I would say, depending on the car, you could actually be a car width or 2 off of this. Again, you could probably tell that by looking at where the tire markings are for a lot of the cars running through here. When you're doing your speed versus distance calculation, I've heard a lot of people say in autocrossing that as tight as you can get, even if you have to take it slower, is often better than wider. I'm not sure from my own practice and experience if I agree with that yet, even if rationally it makes sense. What I mean by that is, of course, people will have opinions on driving style. And those of you who've been watching me a long time or watching any of my coaching videos know that, especially because I come from full-size tracks and motorcycles, I trend towards carrying in extra speed and coasting it off rather than being really tight and braking as late as possible. Now, another reason why you'd want to be wide: cone 1, cone 2, cone 3. So this is a big, long triple sweep. So look how wide people are out because they're letting it slowly arc in, and then you can see where it comes towards that third apex cone. This second cone is a sucker. Don't aim at that. Wide to the first one, medium to the second one, tight to the third one. A nice tightening radius as you're coming all the way in the whole time should then spit you out for what looks like a pretty good right-hand entry offset slalom right here. So if I'm nice and tight to the right, I should be able to go to the right of this next feature and start this slalom, which is going to be entering on the right. First pointer cone tells you which way to go as you enter the slalom. So we're going to come to the right of this first cone, and then a nice little left, right. And again, you can probably see from the discoloration on the concrete here at Lincoln Air Park pretty much exactly where the line is. This is not going to be a super fast slalom because you'll notice it's spaced rather tightly. I think that each of these concrete slabs is 25 feet, so it looks like a 25-foot or a 60-foot slalom. I've seen wider. I've seen 70, 75, 80, 90. 35 to 50-foot slaloms are kind of like tight to moderate range, so this is on the bigger end of small, if that makes sense. I know that's not a very intelligent way to say that. I'm sorry. I'm not an orator. But we come out here, and because of the direction of this slalom, this will spit you out pointing at an apex cone for another corner over here. So what you would want to do is, and you can kind of see that from the fact that the line starts tight and then this last little discolored patch from where people have been running gets really wide on the last cone, is in between the second to last cone and the last cone. You'd want to be on the throttle letting the car widen out, because if you're nice and wide as you come out towards this last cone here, as long as you're not out in the weeds so much you're going to miss it or like crazy offline, the wider you can get and the further you can get to driver's left to get tight to this cone, you'll notice you'll set yourself up a nice straight braking zone to then enter this next right-hand corner, yeah? And as we're looking at it, just like that earlier corner back there, after this set of squiggly back and forth and slaloms and that nice wide late apex hairpin, this looks like a pretty wide entry. These cones here are probably just to keep you from going too far to the left, because it would make this corner really trivial if you could be out super far left. You'll notice from the rubbered in patch, basically nobody's coming out all the way to here by the wall, but very few people are getting all the way tight in the cone. Everybody's staying a car width or more off of the cone. That would be smart, because that extra distance, if you look at where we're going, ignore this first cone and look at the second one where that wall has the corner tightening up, that apex is going to be really late. So people are deliberately all the way out here, which I 100% agree with. I think that would be the correct call. Some people's line, if you look at the rubber patches, some people seem like they're in really, really super tight to this. I'm not sure if I think that's the right call. Again, this might just be my road racer brain. I'm not a super experienced autocrosser. I'm more of a road course racer. I would want to kind of be out about where I'm standing. So you look at kind of where I'm pointing, feet aimed at the cones. I'm about a car width or two off of the first cone, because then I would want to let the car come in and hit the second cone, right? I'd want to miss that first cone, let the car arc in and hit that second cone, because if I can get really tight to this second cone and I'm kind of coming around it with the backside of my car, I can straight line towards this next gate and basically keep one constant arcing corner going. All the way from the turn in where I'm missing that first cone by being wide, I can slowly let the car tighten up in here, but then already be on the throttle in here, even in my front wheel drive car that might understeer, and let it just kind of pull the nose out as I'm gaining speed through here. so that I can come again, and you can kind of see people doing this because you can see how these rubbered in lines, they're coming out wide to the left as they get closer. So people are letting the nose of the car drag them from the driver's right to the driver's left-hand side of the course here to let them increase their speed and widen their angle so that by the time they then get to this next feature, which again is a gate with a little telltale pointer cone, they could be farther out to driver's left so they can kind of squiggle around it. And again, you could see that from the coloration of where the lines are at, right? So you see that big long line of rubber pushed up towards the outside of the circuit. That big thick black line is where nobody is going because that's the rubber pickup off the tires. The lighter stuff in the middle is where people actually are. And those really heavy lines on the driver's right-hand side of the course, this is the driver's right-hand side, over there are from people making mistakes and accidentally adding in a bunch of steering angle and panic or braking suddenly. So the ideal line is like in here, in that area. And you can see the same thing going on over here. I'll zoom back out. Sorry for you having to look at my fingers all defocused in there. But again, if you look at the ideal line from where that slightly lighter color with a little bit of telltales of rubber is, pretty much coming around about a car width around this cone so that you can then point the nose to the right to turn left. And I'm over exaggerating it with my hand there, but you can kind of see what's going on in here. Same kind of deal as normal. I'm always talking about this in novice course walks and stuff like that, but you'll notice what's happening a lot here is people are sacrificing the first or second cone of a corner or an element. So an element would be one whole slalom, one whole corner with multiple cones, like one whole little mini sector or corner, you could say it. People are sacrificing the first cone of an element and not getting tight to it to get in the right position to hit the second or third cone of an element, or whichever one is the last cone quite often. So I would sacrifice time in this fast big gate up here to get farther to the right to dodge these two cones, to point my nose more left to then enter that next right-hander over there. Because if you look at it, that's going to be the slightly more technical portion of the layout right there, where you're decreasing speed as you're coming in here. Because look at how this tightens up. We got a wall here keeping you narrow. We got a wall there keeping you narrow. And they're actually very nice to put that wall in there because that one is basically telling you, hey, you want to be out on the right. Because if you're on the right-hand side and close to this cone, again, you can basically straight line to these two cones. And what you'll notice is if you can get the car right in the middle here, so close to this cone, and then right in the middle to straight line these two cones. And say you're in a medium power front wheel drive like my daily driver Hyundai that I use for this course. If I can get in a straight line so I can get some power down on my front wheel drive car, I can be flat out through here. I can let the car come out a little bit to the left through here. And then I can get to this left corner. This is our finish up here. That's our finish gate. That's the end of the course. I can get through this finish gate wide open throttle, or with a tiny bit of a lift off of the power to get the car to rotate in and through here. If I was really wide on the exit of this cone in the center of the viewfinder, so I was too far out left to this next cone, it would shoot me off to driver's right. So I then could not make this turn-in cone for this last corner. So sacrificing a little bit of time through those two, so I could be flat out through this one to the finish and carry more wide open throttle time, is probably the compromise that I would consider making. Now that would just be my personal preference. I'm curious what a lot of other people who probably have more experience autocrossing would say. Again, a lot of my preferences for my driving come from either the differences between motorcycles and cars, or the differences between really crappy handling oval racing cars from back when I used to be driving Legends cars and stuff, and better handling sports cars that don't have truck suspension in them, or things like that. So it could just be my preference to keep a car as straight as possible because I'm used to it handling bad if I'm on the throttle while cornering. I'm sure in my Mazda Miata that I now have, I could maybe tighten up and shorten up some of my lines, but late turn-ins with a late apex, straight punchy exit so that I can carry speed is probably what I'm going to be looking to be doing with my Hyundai pretty much all weekend, because we're talking about a 200 horsepower car that makes peak torque at pretty much idle RPM, because it's got a very small spooling turbocharger that is turned on pretty much all the time. And it makes that peak power all the way to the red line. So if I'm, you know, on the throttle anywhere, I'm pulling, I'm accelerating, and that's taking grip away from my cornering. So it would make sense to get as flat and punched off of corners as you possibly could. So that's what the first end of that pro course looks like. We are probably not going to have anything else going on tonight. Tomorrow is going to be check and tech-in, and that's going to be happening at the trailer that has the tech-in sign over here, which is right by the start line trailer. Then there is the tech and check-in trailer. Again, a really nice facility out here. I'm really looking forward to what we get done tomorrow. Vitour Tires is sponsoring a bunch of testing runs tomorrow, but actual runs for the National Solo are Sunday and Monday. Pro Solo runs are the tail end of tomorrow. So I might stream some more of that and some of the Pro Solo runs, and we'll try to have some fun with it. Thanks for my little mini track walk. I hope you had fun watching it. I'm tired because I just drove here. This has been a bit rambly. I'm Ted Ho. I'm driver of the number 68 Hyundai Elantra N-Line in Hatchback Street. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.